I think that the world is looking for a success story. We're looking, what is the next success story? I'm convinced. I travel around the world, I work around the world, and I'm convinced that Paraguay is the next success story.
Great to be back in Paraguay. Thank you, Mr. President, for hosting us here today. It's a pleasure to be back here.
Thank you, Eric. You're more than welcome. I'm very pleased to have you here at the Buru Villaroga, the house of the boss.
House of the boss. In Guarani, I heard
In
that
Guarani,
before we got
yes.
here. Yes. How has it been? Your first months in office? Is still what you were hoping it to be?
It is fun. It is fun when you know what you need to do. So I went through my head many times from the time I was member of the board of the central bank or Minister of Finance, or even when I was campaigning in 2017 for the first time. I was thinking all the good things that you could do if you have the political power to do it. And so the journey has been very, very good. I have a sense of urgency, despite my youth. I'm only 45. But I have this sense that time goes very, very fast. And probably this is because my own personal experience. I mean, with 45, I have already a son that is 27, a daughter that is 18. And I say, when this happened, time goes very, very fast.
Time flies. And you've been a public servant for whole your life.
My whole career is only for a period of time that I was working in the private sector, but mostly on as a civil servant, national and internationally. So I began this position with the sense of urgency, that time goes very, very fast, and this is a unique opportunity to be at the presidency. Constitution doesn't allow to run again, so it's going to be my only chance, and I'm going to leave administration at the age of 49, and there will be no other opportunity. So I work every morning. I wake up every morning saying, okay, I need to solve issues. I need to plan for the future. I need to send legislation that will allow to make important changes for Paraguay. But more importantly, I want to change the mindset of the Paraguayan population.
And what do you mean by that exactly? What do you really mean about that?
Paraguayans, we refer that one of our major problems is that we are a landlocked country. And the truth is not that that's not a problem, because despite being a landlocked country, we're surrounded by huge rivers. But I think that our major constraint is that we are a mind-locked population. And this has a lot to do with the history, a country that went to a war with its neighbor. We isolated. This has been a very complicated neighborhood, but it's our neighborhood. So this has made Paraguayans to look inward, to be an island surrounded by land, as described by the great Augusto Roa Basto, right? And this is a mindset. It's a cultural thing, and this is something that I'm more than willing to push for the population to embrace. A Paraguay that integrates to the world, a Paraguay that is at the center of integration in South America.
Absolutely. And we have witnessed this by visiting the country, the beautiful country, for many, many times right now, and we're continuing the exploration. And Paraguay is a land that is really open for business. It's embracing globalization. And we are identifying your country as the true hidden gem within South America. So what do you think? Why is this the case? What do you think that it is a hidden gem, still undiscovered by a lot of folks?
This is like the world of Pandora in Avatar. This is a place that has been hidden, and people didn't realize that so much richness. But the truth is that the world already discovered the Great Paraguay a couple centuries ago. When you think about the first Spaniards that arrived to the continent, they go to Paraguay 500 years ago. And you say, how come they come to Paraguay, which is a landlocked country? Well, they first arrived to where is today Buenos Aires, and they couldn't settle there. So they started navigating the Rio de la Plata, the Silver River. They were looking for gold and silver. So imagine 500 years ago, they arrived to this place and they settled here for one reason. It was not geography. It was the people, the Guaranis. Different to what they found in the coast of Buenos Aires in Argentina, they found this very friendly indigenous community. So they settled here and they launched all the expeditions to discover other cities. That's why Asunción is called the mother of all cities. 70 cities. Asunción was the epicenter of the discovery of the America. So when a couple of centuries later, the Jesuits missions came to South America, it was in this part of the continent. That was the most impact of the Jesuit mission was in Paraguay. So by 1850, Paraguay was the most advanced country in Latin America. Why? Because we invested in people. We eradicated analphabetism. We invested in human capital. We sent Paraguayans abroad. We brought technicians from abroad. So when we entered into the war in 1864, the country was at its power. Imagine, Paraguay, small Paraguay, went to a war against Brazil, Argentina, and we have the mindset to say we can win this war. For 6 years we fought. At the end, they killed our president, the only president that lost his life in the battlefield in the history of humankind, Mariscal Francisco Solano Lopez, on a March the 1st. And after the war, we lost 60% of the territory, and we lost 90% of the male population. 90. So we witnessed the hardship of recovery for almost 150 years. So that's why the country remained isolated, because of the war. And then we have to go to another war with Bolivia to defend the Chaco.
Yeah.
And nobody came to support Paraguay. It was only Paraguay by itself. So all of these have shaped our recent history, right? But when you go back 150 years ago, you can see the great Paraguay, a blossoming country that has full of opportunity in terms of production, in terms of invention, creation, all the things that have developed societies everywhere.
Now, what is that you're seeing? What is the dream for Paraguay? What do you want to leave as a legacy for your kids and potentially for their children? What is the dream?
I think that one of the most important things, because when you think about the challenge for humankind, not only for Paraguay, the question is, how are we going to feed a population that is growing, that is going to be around 10 billion in 2050? How are we going to feed when you don't have all the regions that produce food to feed their own population, another region? When we think about the scarcity, for example, water or land, I think that Paraguay creates a huge opportunity. So I think that Paraguay economic development has a lot of potential: water, land, electricity, clean, renewable electricity. But at the end, it's not the natural resources that will define. It is its people.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to untap the full potential of the Paraguayans, right? So this is why my most important project is to encourage Paraguayans to dream big, to look around and believe in themselves and saying, our problem is not that we are geographically landlocked. The problem is that we are mind-locked, and we need to unlock this full potential. We need to dream big, and we now have to convince all Paraguayans that this country has absolutely everything what is needed to develop.
Absolutely. But then if we go a little bit more concrete on this, your first step is to unlock the potential of the human capital within the country.
How do you do that? Improve education.
Mm-hmm.
How do we put Paraguay at the center of technological innovation? We have developed an educational initiative, for example, with Taiwan, which is a heavy player in technology, right? So we have this technological university between Paraguay and Taiwan. Taiwanese teachers coming to Paraguay, Paraguayans training here for 2 years, then going 2 years to Taiwan, and then working in technology companies in Taiwan. We are improving the access to scholarship programs. We launched it almost 10 years ago when I was Minister of Finance, the scholarship program Carlos Antonio Lopez, so name of the first president that sent Paraguayans abroad to study. So we have sent by now probably 6,000 Paraguayans to do PhDs and masters in the top universities in the world. So this is the type of human capital that will allow to grow much faster in the coming years. Of course, improving initial education. Of course, improving health system. We are also working with probably the country who has the best health system in the world, which is Taiwan. Again, a strong ally of Paraguay. So these are the things that will improve human capital, and this better human capital will have a much better competitiveness in the world economy.
Absolutely. Do you have any, let's say, a vision? The Saudis have 2030, Saudi Arabia vision, the Chinese have 2050 vision. Is there anything, let's say, outside of these building blocks that you're now putting in motion?
We do. I mean, 20 years ago, Paraguayans, we make a strong commitment to macro stability. And in the past, we suffer a lot from economic stability coming from Brazil and Argentina. So we make this pact, this agreement among the business community, the politics community, and also the policy aspect. So we set a lot of reforms. For example, we lowered taxes, we gave the central bank more independence, and we approved a fiscal responsibility law. So this was a major improvement on macro stability. Now we need to go beyond on this. We make a big agreement a couple of years ago in 2014. We approved a national development strategy, a vision for the next 15 years, right? In that moment, it was toward 2030, right? So in this agreement, which is a broad vision about Paraguay and Paraguay development for the coming years, we agreed that, number one, a country that can feed 100 million people is not acceptable that have people that is under poverty. It's not acceptable. So we need to eliminate poverty. This is something that we can do. It could be achievable in the near future. In fact, one of the pillars that I'm implementing goes in that same direction. Pillar number two, we need to create a more broad-based economic growth, a shared prosperity view. Paraguay growth is among the top among all the countries in Latin America, but growth by itself is not going to solve. Growth has been very, very important, and trickle-down economics really work, but it doesn't work just by itself. It has to be complemented with other measures, and for that, we plan the development of a social safety network, a safety network that will lift people from vulnerability and allow them to grow by itself, not to be dependent on the public sector. That's a pillar number two. Pillar number three is how to insert Paraguay into the world economy, how to leave behind that idea that Augusto Roabasto was saying of the island surrounded by land. Paraguay needs to integrate. So this is the three pillars that we agree and we approve. This is a national trade approved by the government in 2014, has been updated in recent years. And this is something that has been guiding much of the public policy in recent years.
Absolutely. And if we focus now on the pillar number three, that is what you just mentioned, what are the ways, Paraguay is very heavily focusing on sustainability. One of the outliers of the region in terms of how you approach sustainability. It's very admirable, and the neighboring countries are not operating the same manner. And however, what are the industries, the verticals where you see that you can focus on this, concretely on this pillar number three, that how to lead? Where do you see that Paraguay can be the leader? So if we now look at the first step is to unlock the human mind, the potential of your people, where will you be leading, let's say in 50 years of time?
I think that there are some features about Paraguay that people underestimate, and we need to show that these are something very strong. One is democracy. This is a country that suffered the longest dictatorship in South America, 35 years during the Stroessner government. So lack of freedom was a major problem. So for us, this is something that we take a lot of pride and we defend democracy and freedom and free of speech and freedom for the free enterprise to decide what business to do. I mean, this is something that is a huge advantage of Paraguay. Paraguay, again, in my view, is one of the strongest democracies in Latin America. We value democracy. Democracy is at risk worldwide. So I think this is something very, very important because it provides freedom for the private sector to develop the activities that they want. And the government will not constrain this, only have to be legal. They have to be authorized by law. The other feature is the political structure. Latin America is a vast continent, but there are not many countries, right? So you have very large countries, Brazil, Argentina, just to name two of the largest in South America. These two countries, they have a type of government structure. You have national government, governmental, departmental level, and the municipalities. And the three of them, the three have independent powers. They have this federal system, like the US, right? Which worked very well in the US, but in Latin America has been very, very cumbersome. So it's complicated when you talk to the president, and then you have to go to talk to the governor. But at the end, it was the mayor of the city, the one who decides. In the case of Paraguay, you have a single government administration. So you talk to the president, you talk to the minister, and that's all. That's the final word. You don't have to go all this layer of government authorities, which at the end is an endless process, and of course, red tape, bureaucracy, and at the end, all of these are things that doesn't encourage the eradication of investment. So I think this is two things that Paraguay, and there's no a clear perception under that of how important these two things: democracy, freedom, and also the type of government that we have.
Absolutely. But if we now, you're emphasizing very clearly your stability, your value for freedom, and openness for business. However, when we chat a lot with the global north, the corporates, investors, and overall, the first thought that comes into their mind is fear. Fear of the uncertain, fear of potential corruption. How would you address these type of challenges? Because when I travel around Paraguay, this becomes more evident that this is a phenomenal place to do business.
It is.
We are so afraid that what we don't understand and what we don't know. And number one problem is that people don't even know where Paraguay is, right? So then how would you address this concern about corruption or uncertainty?
Eric, outreach, going out to the market,
Yeah.
and we have to recognize, I think that this country has so much to offer, but the war is not going to come after Paraguay. Paraguay needs to go after the war.
100%.
100%. So I have been spending a lot of time traveling, talking to the business community, and we have hard numbers. I come from the central bank. I'm trained as an economist, as a public policy specialist, and at the end, it doesn't matter how good you tell a story. The root is how do you prove your case, and how we prove. A country that has maintained macro stability, 80 years of the same currency, and for an European, this might not be a big issue, but Latin America has been full of cases of hyperinflation.
Absolutely.
And this is one of the main roots of instability, high inflation. Paraguay has maintained very low inflation, has an independent central bank. Paraguay, despite having a great access to market, is a country with the lowest debt to GDP among all countries in Latin America. This is a source of responsibility. This is one level of public commitment that is very hard to find, because in democracy, a government that arrives, they are urged to deliver results. And most of the time, they will take decisions that are good on the short term, but are very, very bad for the long term. So when a society is growing, when you have one generation planting a seed to see a tree grow and give shade for a kid that is not born yet. And this is what we do. We plan for the long term. So I think these are the things that we have been discussing with the business community, with other governments. What are the things that Paraguay has done over the last 35 years? What are the things that Paraguay plans to do in terms of sustainable production? How are we going to maintain our forests? How are we going to take care of the water reservoir? How are we going to use the clean renewable energy that we have, the massive amount of energy that we are using, and how can this use to produce more sustainable goods? So we are convinced that Paraguay has many of the answers for the world, but we need to go out and tell this to the world.
But now if we look a little bit on the fears, the biggest fears that you have for your country, and some of the fears that you have that if you cannot get done during your term in office, what would those be?
I don't know, Eric. I think that there are so many things that we're going to be able to accomplish. Do you think there is something that you cannot accomplish? To be honest, I think there's nothing that we can accomplish. I think that if I'm able to convince, because this is the reason why I entered into politics. I was member of the board of the central bank, and I was thinking what the ministers should do. Then I became Minister of Finance. And I thought, okay, now I'm the one who makes the call. And I went to Congress and I talked to member of parliament and said, look, I need this law. And many of the Congress said, look, you don't have the votes. You need to go out and convince the people. And that's why I decided to enter into politics. And now that I have the capacity to convince others, and absolutely, I truly believe on my own intentions, what is that I want to achieve. And so far in these 6 months, I have been able to get approval for all the law that I have requested to Congress. So I feel very optimistic. I will spend every day for the rest of my term working very hard with the different branches of power, with the society, with the private sector. And eventually, if I'm not able to finish everything from the position of president, I will continue. As I mentioned, with 49 years, I'm more than willing to continue. And this is a lifetime job. This is not a short period of time. This
It's
is
your mission.
something.
You're
No,
on it.
and I'm advocating that everybody should get involved in public policy, the private sector, the public sector, the politician, the international organization. So I'm very critical about different aspects of the multilateral system. I think that there are some failures, and there are so many things that I want to collaborate with the international community. I mean, we are facing 52 wars currently. At this moment, there are 52 wars in the world. So there's so much that we need to do, not only in our own country, but also in the international community. So I'm not thinking the thing that I'm afraid not to accomplish. I'm spending every day on putting all my effort to accomplish all of them.
Absolutely. But let's say then if we focus a little bit on, again, you're working every day of your life to try to make Paraguay better and provide better chance to opportunities, equal access to opportunities, trying to put Paraguay in the global map.
Yes.
But when we look at this, again, we will go back to the level of mission. The last very large project that the world knows was the hydroelectric dams that are Brazil and Paraguay. That is over many decades ago. We have not seen anything like this in recent times. How come?
Yeah. I think there has been a lot of new investment, not probably on the size, because when you think about Itaipu was built 40 years ago. The treaty goes 50 years ago, but it was built, operating 40 years ago. But since then, there have been so much development going on in Paraguay. And we are currently, for example, there's a paper mill that is being built now, 10% of GDP in a single project. This is the largest private sector investment in the history of Paraguay. So this is happening already. So Paraguay will be not only a powerhouse in soy production, it's going to be also on paper production, on cellulose. So this is something that also came from the experience of countries, Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden. They have a lot of experience, and a couple of years ago they said, we need to explore other parts of the world. Well, they came to Paraguay, and they planted seed and trees that will take 14 years in Europe. It take only 7 years here. So the productivity that Paraguay have is tremendous. So, but going back to your question, what are those tangible things that we can hope to achieve? I think that getting investment grade, this is a tangible. Paraguay has been for over 5 years, one notch. Standard & Poor's just upgraded Paraguay after 10 years. We are just one notch on the 3 rating agencies to become investment grade. This is something that the market will perceive as a major improvement. I think that Paraguay already deserves, but it takes time. Sometimes they want to see, okay, how do they perform on the good time? How do they perform on the bad time? But it will get to there. The other aspect is Paraguay become a member of the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. This is the group of countries that hold the best practices in the world. So this is something that I think Paraguay could very well achieve in the near future. This is something that we are working with this organization.
And is there any structural changes that still need to happen?
I think, I mean, when you look at the capital endowment, land, investment, Paraguay has pretty much a very good size. But we need to improve the productivity of the labor. And this comes with education, access to good quality of health system. So these are the aspects that I'm more looking into. A couple of years ago, when I got to the Ministry of Finance, I said, look, macro stability, got it, check. We have it. We have to maintain it. But what will make the change for Paraguay future? Human capital. And for that, I focus on how to improve the educational system and how to improve the health system. So these are aspects that I'm working on. It's on my agenda, is to work on how to improve the educational system and how to improve the health system.
And what are the concrete steps now that you can enhance? Let's say we focus now on education.
On education, we brought a great minister, someone who knows from experience, a long career in the private sector in the educational system. And I said, I want to focus on the educational aspect because the ministry needs to look into the infrastructure, need to look into supplies of books, need to take care of the food program. I said, I'm going to take all those things that are not directly related to the education, right? Infrastructure, public works, the food program, we're going to take it to the Ministry of Social Development. So the Ministry of Education focus on the curriculum. We'll focus on how well prepared are the teachers, which is the major aspect of the Ministry of Education, and not having to spend a lot of time on things that are not related, are part of this educational system, but are not the missional, the core foundation of the educational system.
And how do you know that you are moving towards the right path? So it's like the famous saying goes, what gets measured gets done. How are you transparently measuring these things that you know, let's say education, health, investments? Are you on top of these things? And how do you keep up?
Well, the good thing is that I had been in a public service for many, many years. And being Minister of Finance give you access to so much information. And I myself, I'm very interested in getting into things and knowing the nitty-gritty.
Nitty-gritty details. I love that. Yeah.
I used to have a boss when I was working for a multilateral institution. I said, you need to own it. When you're going to talk about something, you better know it. So I love talking about these issues, but to talking about this, you need to know it. So, of course, there is a lot of resources, people that knows about this locally, but also rely on international experience in terms of education, working with the World Bank, who's supporting a lot, and they have experience from other countries in the region. So we are benefiting of the things that have worked and try to avoid the things that have not worked.
Absolutely. Well, you have this amazing passion towards public service. You still have hair on top of your head. It actually looks pretty good. It's not completely gray yet, even though you're a young guy. But what would you say is the last final words for people all around the world, and why Paraguay is open for business and why people should come over here?
I think that the world is very difficult place. We're facing so much hardship in so many places, and I don't want to name none in particular, but I think that the world is looking for a success story. We're looking, what is the next success story? I'm convinced. I travel around the world, I work around the world, and I'm convinced that Paraguay is the next success story. And this is because of its people. It's not the natural resources, which we have a lot. It's not geography. We're in the middle of a region of the world that has so much to offer to the world. We are a young population, but we have inherited this from our indigenous culture, the Guarani. We are people that we are very candid. We are very open. We are people that want to connect to the world. And I think this is something that any foreigners who come to Paraguay can witness.
I 100% agree, and I can testify to
So
that.
we recognize when you arrive to the airport is not new. It's an old airport. We are planning to change it. It's going to be a very nice
I'm excited.
airport.
I'm excited
Yes.
for the airport.
But at the end, what makes a difference is what is your experience. And the experience is made out of people, how they receive you. Will they give you a smile? Will say you, what can I do for you? So I think this is something that we really value, Paraguayans, and we want to maintain. I want to advance modernity and advance in technology, but I don't want to lose that feature that makes us unique, which is the kindness that we are.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your time today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Eric.